Hello, hello. I am back with another Outlast video. So in this video, it's gonna be a little different than usual. Well, I guess. Well, yeah, it's a little different. So I'm doing a kind of like a follow-up review. I just played the Dead by Daylight 2v8 event a few times. Got a bit of content on it. Obviously, the YouTube algorithm is pooping on me because I don't know what it is. The Dead by Daylight algorithm is heavily saturated with certain content creators already, so you know, trying to squeeze in there with my own content is you know, not the best, but whatever. I decided to upload. I'll in between Outlast content because that's the biggest thing on this channel. I'm gonna be doing other games as well. And I have played a lot of Dead by Daylight in my time. I already got like 2 more recordings with 2 other random killers of me playing Huntress, so I thought that was interesting. The last video of me just playing Huntress, the audio got fucked up. Essentially, I had music in the background. It got copyright claimed. I tried out YouTube's new feature. It's like some sort of AI feature where it cuts out the music so you could still monetize your video. Because I got demonetized, I got copyright claimed. Cut it out so I can get monetized on the video. Got it up. Sounds like doo-doo, but whatever. Anyway, so I'll be uploading other stuff too, including devlog still. I just thought I should get this up as the next video because that's where most of the viewership comes from, and you know, I do enjoy reviewing Outlast. So we gave it 7 out of 10 on the last review. I think the new update with its never-ending mode, what's it called? Accelerated therapy? Yeah, escalation therapy is the name of it. You know, obviously that's the highlight of the update in my opinion. I feel like the rest of it is kind of, you know, lame. If you want to get into the lore, you might as well just go watch the Gaming Harry. I think that's why Red Barrels gets him on their streams, because, you know, he's super... First of all, he doesn't criticize them at all. He's just a guy that goes over story and lore. So that's really easy to get, like, you know, deals and brands and stuff. Of course, you know, overall, when it comes to game reviews and stuff, it's a huge facade. A lot of the time, you know, even if a game is shit, game reviewers don't want to rate it low because they're afraid they'll lose a deal with that company or, you know, that publisher. And it makes sense, you know, obviously with our own games, you know, obviously you want the best reviews, but, you know, negative reviews, if it's proper criticism, can help. I just wish reviewers were more honest instead of being bought out like the bigger reviewers I'm talking about here. But anyways, the point is I gave it finally a 7 out of 10. I finally agreed with IGN. The release update was not a 7 out of 10. To me, it was more of a 5. At first, I gave it a 6.5. My brother gave it a 5.5. I ended up giving it a 5 out of 10 at the very end as a follow-up review. So for my follow-up review, because I always like, you know, I rate something and then I take a few weeks to like kind of sit on it while, you know, I'm working and stuff, and then I'll come back with a follow-up video and you know, see if I want to update, lower, or raise my score more. I'm not gonna raise my score any higher, and I'm not going to lower it any lower. It's a 7 out of 10. So a lot of people in my last Outlast video were, or not a lot of people, but some people, I should say. Majority of the people obviously were members of my Discord and also supporters of my content, so they can see what I'm seeing. But of course, the people that are either new or just, you know, shilling the shit out of Red Barrels, even though they're not an indie company anymore, they're like a medium-sized, you know, getting close to AAA company. They have 70 employees now. They're outsourcing to companies with over 200 employees. They have a lot of employees, so they're pretty much like a over 200 person company in retrospect. So in an overall overview, you know, they're actually really just a larger company. With that being said, I'll leave it at 7 out of 10 because escalation therapy is pretty fun, but it also gets boring after a while, and it takes like eons to grind. There are the no-lifers, of course, that are, I think the world record right now is 175. Anybody that no-lifes the shit and you know, doesn't work or anything, has a lot of time on their hand, will end up liking the escalation therapy. And I like it too, but I just don't have, you know, 2 days and 48 hours to grind to get to trial 200. You know, plus it's not that fun. You know, you might hold like a world record number, but the way to get around it is just to leave your PC on. Well, probably eventually it'll push you out. Well, what you could do is you could just take turns playing with someone else, or solo. I don't count solo like that. Okay, I heard the world record solo was 175, but I'm not gonna count it because you're literally invincible. That's the problem with the escalation therapy. Is the pills make it so you have the revive amp? It's essentially, it acts the same, except imagine if you had unlimited revives. That's pretty much pills. It's pretty ridiculous. Most people just get bored after a while when they do solo, or they no life the shit out of it. You know, it's not really much of a challenge. So of course there's gonna be people trying to abuse the whole world record thing. I want to wait to see what someone gets to with the team to like 200 or something. I know I'm not gonna do it because I'm working. I don't know. Unless you got like a job where you can like play games at the same time of working, if that's even possible, then maybe. But overall, it's just kind of a waste of time at that point. I don't know. So the title of the video, I believe that if we can, so I'm pretty much, okay, so let's go on to, in the Dead by Daylight video where I played Nurse, I kind of pointed out that Dying Light, if you look up Dying Light 2, just look it up for yourself. I don't feel like editing it in, to be honest. I'm just showing you guys gameplay while I talk. If you look up Dying Light 2 player counts on Steam, you know, who cares about console and stuff? So Dying Light 2 has currently well, I'm at nighttime, so their all-time peak was 5,294 people, gamers. And then if we go Outlast, Trials, player counts, their peak was 3,458 today, so it's going down after the update already. People say, like bigger YouTubers than me, say that Dying Light 2 is a dead game. And nobody is even, like Outlast Trials is so dead that it's only channels around my size or smaller are covering it. Like the biggest channel covering Outlast Trials right now is the Gaming Harry, and I think that's why they, you know, they're really like, thanks for covering our content kind of thing, because none of the other big YouTubers want to even touch this game now because of how dead it is. If you look at Dying Light, there's also bigger YouTubers covering it, but it's a very few niche, and they're saying it's dead. They're saying it needs more content for Dying Light 2. More people are playing Dying Light 1 than Dying Light 2. So my point is, when people in my comment section are saying like, oh, stop saying Outlast Trials is dead, blah blah blah, or it's not dead, you're full of shit. It's a dead game. It's a general, when it comes to bigger games and bigger companies, you know, it's a dead game. There's indie games that get more gamers that playing their game than this. And I will say one thing, it isn't easy to achieve high player counts for a consistent amount of time. But it can be if you plan it out the correct way beforehand. And it seems like Red Barrels just doesn't know what they're doing with a live service game. They're really good at single player games, but when it comes to a live service game, they just don't know what to do. It was to a point when like they had to run a survey. It's like they took like a few years off making a game, and then it's like they forgot how to make a game. They forgot about gameplay loops. They forgot about gaming, like the enjoyment of playing the game. You know, they tried to use the excuse that small indie games are very replayable. It's like, you guys aren't an indie company anymore. Like, that's like a BHVR that made Dead by Daylight when they were an indie company. They don't say they're an indie company anymore. They're making like 3 different games right now, and they're managing Dead by Daylight. They don't say they're an indie company anymore. You know, obviously Red Barrels is smaller than that, but they are also quite big now. They don't have as many employees as something like Dead by Daylight, but they have enough to make a proper season pass. They have enough to make engaging content, and they shouldn't have to take 4 months just to make that engaging content. Now, finally, we got actually a decent update. The last decent update was pretty much early access release. All the other updates since then were always disappointing. This one was less disappointing, but it was like mediocre. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't like the holy grail of updates or some shit like that. It was just like, it's okay. And you can also see that in the player counts too. Most PC gamers don't even want to touch this now because of how boring it is. Even IGN said it too. It's good for about 8 hours, and then it dies off quickly because you're just doing the same shit over and over and over again. If they made that type of, you know, quote unquote shit, or the gameplay itself replayable, so say you were doing the same thing over and over again, but they made it more procedural, or they changed things up more, then yeah, no, it could be more enjoyable. But we haven't gotten new enemies for, like, you know, this is the 2nd year it's been out, and we haven't gotten any new enemies. And I'm not going to count Franco because he's just like a prime asset, and you could say he's a new enemy. You know, people are saying he's overpowered, but they're just like really trash at the game. All you got to do is just keep moving, and most of the time he doesn't even hit you with his shots. Like, he's literally blind. That's in the character lore. He acts like he's blind. He's really off with his shots. He usually doesn't even hit you. I don't know. I don't have a problem with him. Never had a problem with him. So, why is Dead by Daylight doing so well still after 8 years? And that's another thing. A lot of people are trying to defend Outlast because it just came out. They're like, oh well, it's only a few years old. Technically it's like because took them by the 5th year they released. This is year 6. They delayed 4 times. Hold on. Let me just. Okay, so so Outlast Trials was first announced in 2017. Okay, never mind. I'm a little off, actually. I was actually giving them credit. It was announced in 2017. They released in 2023, so that's about 6 years of development. 6 years. 6 years. And I think I read a comment in the last one, I gave the example of Ready or Not, and they were trying to say it was in development for 8 years, and they have 15 maps, and they were obviously they don't know what they're talking about. I think someone else disproved them. So they were in development for about 7 years before its full release. They did have an early access period. Oh, so they released after 7. Okay, so I'll give it a little bit of credit. It wasn't 8 years, it was 7 years when they released in early access. So if we're gonna compare the two, and then by the time they got to full release, which did take them a while, they had 15 maps. So if we go with Outlast Trials, I think they rushed their early access release, if I'm gonna be honest. The game still feels like early access. They only have 6 maps, and we just got Escalation Therapy now. Outlast Trials still feels like a very early access-y game, but I think the reason they wanted to rush it so they could just, get it on consoles and then say, yeah, no, it's not early access anymore, just to prove the point why the game should be on, consoles to make more money. And to me, personally, I feel like it's a very early access game when it comes to a bigger company like that. Like, obviously, there's indie companies that release with less content. So if Red Barrels was about 12 employees, then I would be like, okay, even less than that. Then I'd be like, you know what, this makes sense why it's only 6 maps. I'd be okay with that. If we go Ready or Not, for example, which is about the same size as Red Barrels, but I don't think they outsource as much. They actually do a lot of their own concept art. Obviously they use tools like AI and stuff as well, but they literally, if anything, have less employees than Red Barrels, and they still have more content. The only bad thing about Ready or Not is the performance is pretty garbage. Like, I think they've had to optimize it a few times, but when it comes to Outlast Trials, the performance is phenomenal. The game is very well optimized with Unreal Engine. Ready or Not, on the other hand, it's not optimized that good at all. It has some problems, but the whole point of the comparison is the timeline. So they were actually in development for 6 years before, and then finally on the 6th year they released in early access. And then this being year 7 now, we got 2 more. In March we got full release, which was going to year 7. See, and Ready or Not spent a year and a half in early access, while Outlast only spent a year in early access, and I honestly feel like they should have spent more time. So really, they're catching up to another thing is Ready or Not released before Outlast Trials, and I don't know. I'm gonna stop it there. I think I proved my point with that one. But back to Dead by Daylight, I played the new mode, and it is obviously Dead by Daylight is very repetitive, but it's different every time. They have more procedural generation than Outlast Trials. They have more cosmetics to earn. They have more season passes. They have more content in general. They have tons of different perks you can use. They have tons of different characters, and if I was to compare characters to rigs, obviously there's just more. Like, when it comes to characters, I mean, like, the killers have each their own ability. For survivors, it's just like the difference is perks, really, but you can get all the perks on one survivor anyway, so there's really no difference between each survivor. Point being is, the reason Dead by Daylight has survived for so long and their player counts are so high is because now they're even branching out to new game modes, like the 2v8 game mode. And I'm judging by the amount of players coming back, almost beating their peak player counts, their peak player count of 105,000. I'm sure they will bring the 2v8 mode as an official mode eventually, if they find it worth their time. So with that said, I think Red Barrels needs to add something more sustainable. I don't know. I feel like they could have had higher player counts if they put more effort into it, and my rating would also be higher. I feel like even a PvP mode, I know they're not going to go, they already said they're not going to do this, but I feel like it would attract also more, I don't know, I think co-op can, see, I don't, you know what, I don't believe that, because co-op games do have, if you may, see, I think the other reason is because they don't have PvP. See, Dead by Daylight is all PvP. The bots in Dead by Daylight are pretty ass, but when it comes to replayability, it's also, you're going against players that are different every time. That's the other thing too. If Outlast Trials made their AI better and they improved upon it, then it would be better and would be more enjoyable. But the problem with Red Barrels is they're kind of stubborn, and I don't think they're like taking forever to add new general NPC. Like, we haven't had a general new X-Pop in forever. Like, it's been over a year now since we've gotten a new X-Pop. The only thing they said they added for X-Pop was the female giants, which that doesn't even count. That's just like a reskin. It's just a remodel of what we already have. So we got a female version now. I don't know why they did that. Doesn't make sense. They spend time on something that didn't need to be added to the game. It's kind of insane. So still 7 out of 10. But after playing, another game mode from another game that's more successful, I, wanted to talk about how, the season pass sucks ass in Outlast, and most of the season passes in Dead by Daylight have more thought put into them. Sometimes they're total ass as well, but they still have hundreds of cosmetics, and they're always expanding their season pass, so you have more to grind. Am I grinding the current one? No, I'm not. I'm just saying, if you do want to grind something in Dead by Daylight, there's always something to grind. Plus, they have past challenges that you can grind from before. So it's not like seasonal challenges, you don't get challenges locked. You can actually grind the past challenges for extra blood points, which is the currency in that game. When it comes to this game, they finally added challenges in, which is nice, but since the maps are so similar, I just don't see the point in playing, really. I don't know. It's also quite an easy game. It doesn't take a lot of skill. Well, where Dead by Daylight could take hours upon hours just to master a certain killer and go against the best players. In Outlast, it's like pretty much how fast can you run without being hit, and eventually that becomes very easy. That's why when I heard about people complaining about Franco, I'm like, just run, just start moving. So I don't know, that's my take. I don't want to do too long of a recording, but more or less that's my take on my follow-up review and what I think after trying a new event in Dead by Daylight. And Dead by Daylight was getting very stale. And that's coming from someone that has 7,000 hours, over 7,000 hours now in the game. It was getting very stale. But with the 2v8 mode, that's definitely my favorite mode. Not to play as a survivor, but to play as a killer. Because playing killer in that mode is it's very relaxing. And since you have a teammate, it's fun. It's definitely fun playing with another killer buddy, and you can invite your buddy and you can both play killer. And people have been asking that for the last 3 years, and finally by year 8, they finally have that in. I'm just doing one more search up to ask about to see when Dead by Daylight, like essentially how long they were in development before release, because we know that Outlast Trials was in development for 6 years, and then they spent technically early access counts as development, so 7 years in total. Ready or Not was 7.5 years, and that's also including early access. So and now since we're in year 7 with Outlast, we're in year 8 with Dead by Daylight, and they're just like so, they're farther ahead. So from what I found, 2.5 years or a year. So let's just say they thought of, because remember, before they made this game, they were a contracting company assisting other companies, and all their other smaller games were essentially marketing failures. Like, they didn't do too well. Kind of like how we're building our company right now. And right now, Snatched and Pillars of Fog is not making the sales, we would like. So obviously we're going to have to strive to the next game and see if it does better by getting a publisher. Now, I know, I believe they self-published Dead by Daylight. So, and they didn't receive any outside funding other than potentially China. But yeah, no, they published their own stuff. And the next game they're releasing is the casting of Frank Stone. Meet Your Maker was like it made money, but it wasn't a long-term game. Anyways, they put it together in a year and then released in 2016 for PC, and then on console, on Xbox and PlayStation in 2017, and then on Nintendo in 2019. So that just kind of goes to show their progression compared to you know, other companies as well. So they're even faster. They were even faster with development. Obviously, their game isn't huge or something, or as of a high, you know, a lot of people are saying obviously the graphics are shit compared to Outlast. Like the Outlast graphics are like really good. You know, they're taking advantage of Unreal Engine, and Dead by Daylight is like a really like, you know, low quality looking game, but it's the content and the gameplay that is infused into Dead by Daylight what makes it fun. It's not so much the look of it, it's the content there. And I think the problem is Red Barrels heavily relies off their looks rather than their gameplay. And for me, everything's fine. It's just the story has gotten worse. And the other thing, because if you have to listen to a YouTuber to understand a story, you know, that's pretty bad when it comes to, because the only way you figure out the story is by reading the documents and by watching their trailers and, you know, reading the comic books. But you also have to have played the last games to understand the lore of this game. And obviously I just wanted to confirm some of my suspicions about what I already read in the documents and stuff. So you could read the documents and understand it, but my point being is it's not so direct. In the last two games it was. In this game it's kind of like just collecting documents, and then it's just about, you know, speed running. It's not really scary or anything or lore building. It's just like, how fast can I run? And I don't know if they intended their game to be like that, but it's not scary at all. It's you know, that's what's disappointing about Outlast Trials. And I thought, you know, it's definitely one of my favorite games because I'm more of a multiplayer game guy, so single player games to me get boring after a while. But you know, that's my follow-up video. Okay, this is Dan.